Harry and Meghan are going their separate ways. And moving to the UK is the last ditch ever, especially to secure the children's future.
Why does she want to come home? Well, one source today told me that she is a new woman.
I've never seen anything like this. This is very reminiscent of the July situation with Harry and Meghan, where
Harry's going to live in the UK and Meghan and Montecito, the divorce is coming. Getting the kids to the UK secures their titles.
maybe they just told him that Harry and the kids were, while him and Meghan decide on a separation. So guys,
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are heading back to Britain, and the circumstances surrounding that decision have raised far more questions than answers. After 6 years in California, the couple are preparing to spend an extended period in the United Kingdom with Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet, while remaining private, non-working members of the royal family.
The move is expected to take place later this month, with Archie and Lilibet enrolled to begin at British schools in September. The family is expected to live in a private residence outside London rather than a royal property, while keeping their Montecito home and their property in Portugal.
there's something fishy in the land of Harry and Meghan because nothing about this move is making sense. It did at first.
This is a trial separation, but the mainstream media will not report it. I stand by what I said the moment I learned that Harry was moving to the United Kingdom with the children. It clearly was not with Meghan Markle, and everything that I have seen over the past few days, all the conflation from Team Sussex, all of the lies from the mainstream media, I believe are backing up my reporting. So Meghan Markle might think she's being clever, right? Like, did you see this as ever ad over the weekend? Something special is on its way. A new chapter to celebrate. Well, look, the only new chapter you're getting close to, Ms. Markle, is full-on divorce. This is the start of a separation, and these glossy old videos aren't pulling the wool over anyone's eyes.
The precise length of the stay has not been decided, which makes the situation more complicated than a straightforward permanent relocation.
For Harry, Britain has always remained part of his identity, but returning with his entire family is a much bigger decision than simply coming back for a short visit.
The timing is particularly notable because Harry and Meghan have spent years establishing their life in America after stepping away from royal duties in 2020.
The couple plan to be an international couple, so the Sussexes will bring their dogs Maya and Poola with them to Britain, but will not rehome their chickens, which remember live in a coop named Archie's Chicken on their Montecito estate. The flock includes a rescue chicken named Silky, rehomed from their neighbour Ellen DeGeneres, a former US TV talk show host. The birds, which appeared on the Duchess's Netflix programme, will be looked after by household staff, along with the rest of their US home, awaiting their return.
During that period, their relationship with the royal family deteriorated dramatically, especially after their interviews, their Netflix projects, and Harry's memoir brought private family disagreements into the public arena. Yet in July, something changed when King Charles met Harry, Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet at Highgrove, marking the first time in 4 years that Charles had seen all four of them together in person.
And yes, Meghan can leak something to the press, hoping that all her Hollywood dreams come true. But there's something very much deeper going on here, something very chaotic, very, very strange. And you can't help but think all of this chaos has to be hiding something. And when Harry and Meghan met with Charles in July, yes, maybe they did not tell him they were relocating as a family to the UK.
That meeting matters because the children are now becoming central to the relationship.
Archie and Lilibet have spent most of their childhood in California, far from the country associated with their father's family and royal heritage. Their education in Britain means they will now have a much more direct connection to their father's homeland and to their extended family.
What is it about Montecito? Like, what made this place feel like home more than other places?
Well, we moved here 5 years ago. Oh, we're just so happy because we can take our kids to school and have a really supported, sweet life, running around and doing the things that I think everyone maybe is part of your day-to-day, but if you don't think about what life would be like without those moments, it's easy to take them for granted. So I love it. We have such a beautiful, embracing community. And been able to really create and dream here.
Yeah. How important is it to own your own story?
Charles is reportedly pleased about having more opportunities to see his grandchildren, although there has been no suggestion that Harry and Meghan are being restored to official royal duties.
And that distinction is crucial. They are returning to Britain, but they are not returning to the working monarchy.
Unprofessional bit of trash I have ever seen, like ever. It is bad. And you can't help but think, because this is not the palace. This is Harry and Meghan. And yes, I realize a lot of people think Harry and Meghan manipulate a lot of things, and they do quite a bit. But at the same time, this is not just manipulation. This is just pure chaos.
The arrangement established after their departure remains in place, meaning there is no new half-in, half-out royal role waiting for them. Harry and Meghan remain private individuals, and their return does not automatically restore the privileges or responsibilities they previously held as senior working royals. Their situation is therefore unusual.
Please, we all know what's happening. And by the way, the royal family increasingly, after the summit over the past few days, not making it easy for Meghan Markle, with the Telegraph also reporting today that they are not guaranteed Christmas at Sandringham. The couple will not automatically be included in royal family gatherings. So
they will be living much closer to the royal family while remaining outside the institution itself.
But there is another major factor surrounding this return: Meghan's professional future.
Reports have connected the move with discussions about Meghan potentially returning to acting in Guy Ritchie's Netflix series, The Gentleman. The reports have varied considerably over whether she has actually secured a role, whether negotiations are continuing, and how significant the part would be.
And so for Meghan to be at this point going, well, I'm just going to try acting again, or maybe we'll go off to Australia or something. I'm like, what are you talking about? If you want As Ever to be successful, every second of your day that's not with your family should be focused on As Ever.
So I would be premature to describe the casting as settled. What is clear is that the possibility of an acting comeback has become closely associated with the family's decision to spend more time in Britain.
That creates an interesting contrast with the way Meghan has previously described her life in California.
Because that is how you're going to make it successful, is to learn, to grind all the time. But that's clearly not what she wants to do. And Harry is just very clear, guys, at this point. He wants to be a working royal again. That is his sole and only goal, is to be a working royal.
In California, Meghan has built a lifestyle and business identity around projects such as Ever, while Harry has continued his charitable and public work through initiatives connected to his own interests. Their American life was supposed to provide independence from the pressures of royal life, yet the British connection has never completely disappeared.
It's the most important thing in the world.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like you own your own story?
I know I do.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know me, you know that I do. I think there are always going to be moments where you feel as though a story is being told about some caricature of you that actually has nothing to do with you. Mm-hmm. And that can be really hard to reconcile. Yeah. But I think the more comfortable you get with yourself, certainly age helps. I'll be 44. It's great. It's great. And I just think there really is a lot of value to when you anchor into your own knowing, then you're telling your own story. Yeah. You're telling your own story and how you show up in the world, what you do. You actually don't need to say anything.
Mm-hmm. Now their children will be educated in Britain. Harry will be closer to his family, and Meghan is being linked to a potential British television project, bringing several parts of their old and new lives together in the same place.
There's also the unresolved question of security, and Harry has been very vocal about that issue.
In this very, I think, diluted bubble of thinking, if he goes back to the royal family, if he's able to make amends with his pa, I mean, there's even a quote today from the Daily Mail talking about how Queen Camilla, with a fixed smile and plates, offered tea to Prince Harry, despite his public denunciation of her as evil. It appears to have calmed the Sussexes' fears about returning to the UK. And it's like, that was an hour-long tea. Someone can be courteous to you during an hour-long tea just because they want it to be over with faster.
Since losing his automatic entitlement to taxpayer-funded police protection after stepping away from royal duties, Harry has fought a lengthy legal battle over his security arrangements in Britain. He previously argued that bringing Meghan and her children back was unsafe without appropriate protection, and the issue remains unresolved as the family prepares to return.
That is what he wants to be. That is his goal. That is his passion. That's what he is returning to the UK for. And Meghan was trying to, according to the Times, manifest a role in The Gentleman, and according to the Times, probably leaked the story, which she probably did. And Netflix, to its credit, maybe it didn't know about it, but it decided to play it off and not say anything about the negotiations because they're like, you know what we can do? We can get some good publicity for season 2 out of this, and we just let the story ride. Now, of course, it's come back to the sun that no, Meghan is still in talks for The Gentleman, which would be a horrible choice for her as a return role. As a reminder, I've gone over this.
So just an extended period over the fall. They are excited to have their children spend more time in the country that's such an important part of their family's story. And we know that Meghan Markle tried to use the gentleman role to make sense of this announcement. But the problem is she's playing games that she is not equipped to deal with, because this is Hollywood, this is big business, and this is Netflix not wanting to derail one of its most successful dramas from Guy Ritchie in recent years. And there are major developments on this. In the past few hours, Netflix has now confirmed that a third series of The Gentleman will be made, but not confirmed that Meghan Markle is going to be part of it.
The British government has stressed that protective security decisions are based on risk assessments and established procedures, rather than simply on a person's royal status.
So the return carries a contradiction at its heart.
Harry and Meghan are moving closer to the institution they once left, but they are not rejoining it.
Why does she want to come home? Well, one source today told me that she is a new woman and that her attitude has changed, that she has a hide like a rhino, and that she feels safe returning because she now has people around her dedicated to protecting her. Obviously, the implication being that the men in grey suits did not try and protect her, sold her down the river, sacrificed her to make William look good. We've seen all those allegations, haven't we? We've seen all the allegations, the bridesmaids' dresses, the, this, that, and the other, etc., etc., etc. But it's still, it's a fairly inadequate explanation to be fair. That she feels she's got a better team now, or an independent team.
They are bringing their children into British schools while maintaining their American home, pursuing private careers and remaining outside the working monarchy. That makes this less a restoration of their former royal life and more an attempt to create a different arrangement, one that connects Britain, America, and their family without formally reversing the decision they made 6 years ago.
Meghan was widely reported to have held exploratory talks with the Hollywood director about the potential for her to appear in his Netflix show after an initial article on the US entertainment website Deadline on Friday. But you remember, actually, all of these reports emerged because Meghan's team had leaked to Bronte Coy, their new Omid Scobie operating out of Australia, that she had an exciting entertainment role lined up. So all of this was sparked by Meghan. It was completely unnecessary. Now, the Times reports at present Meghan is not thought to have been offered any role on The Gentleman.
The more closely you examine the return, the less convincing the idea of a simple family relocation becomes. There are several separate developments happening at the same time, and Meghan's possible acting comeback has become one of the most closely watched.
Meghan Markle was reported to be in preliminary discussions for a role in the third season of Guy Ritchie's Netflix series The Gentleman, a project that would be filmed largely in Britain.
It's really not. That's just pure propaganda. We have seen, I just looked at the box office results from Cookie Queens. It hasn't even surpassed 600K. This is the latest box office results. It doesn't account for the weekend. I don't even think it's in theaters anymore, to be quite honest. And it made $3,700 on Thursday. $3,700. Honestly, I'm not even sure this film breaks in it even. It probably breaks even, maybe makes a little bit, but this is not making a ton of money. So
the timing was striking because the family had already decided to bring Archie and Lilibet into British schooling, and the possibility of professional work in the UK offered an obvious practical reason for Meghan to spend more time there. However, the situation changed rapidly, with reports later claiming that the casting was withdrawn following backlash, while other reporting said discussions had not necessarily ended.
But the point is, she lied in the first place. She said that this role was a done deal. It was not. So you should not trust her, just like you shouldn't trust her when you try and say that this marriage is fine. But here's what the royal editor Matt Wilkinson reported. The Duchess of Sussex is still in talks to star in Guy Ritchie's The Gentleman, despite claims she had been axed after a public backlash. Netflix boss is eager to feature Meghan's screen comeback, but no formal agreement has been reached. A source said her return to acting is expected to draw a large audience of both her supporters and critics, and is likely to make a lot of money. It will be seen as a major coup for whoever signs it. So you can completely understand that this is now being briefed by Team Meghan to try and say to Netflix, look, there might be backlash, but actually as long as people still watch, it's okay. But it's not really.
That uncertainty is important because the acting story should not be treated as settled fact. Meghan's involvement has remained fluid.
The Gentleman itself is a major Netflix production connected to Guy Ritchie, and the second season is scheduled to launch before any potential third season appearance could happen.
It'll be an extended period of time, which Harry and Meghan said. But logically, an extended period of time with children means until the children graduate high school or something. Yes, I know they graduate differently in the UK, but that would be generally what I would think, because the whole point of going to the back to the UK, I would imagine, is to help secure their places in the line of succession, make it more difficult to argue something like I have, which is that you amend the letters of patent to say only children raised and educated in the UK can hold titles and places in the line of succession. That should be pretty easy. That lops a lot of people off the list, to be honest.
The reports surrounding Meghan have therefore moved remarkably quickly, from preliminary conversations to claims of an offer, followed by reports that the casting had been pulled. At this stage, the reliable conclusion is that Meghan's name became associated with the project, but the precise status of any future role has been disputed publicly.
There is another detail that makes the move especially significant. Meghan is not abandoning her American business life. She is trying to operate across both.
Because anyone with a brain knows you don't move your family, you don't change what school your kids are going to, because you've got a bit part role in a very limited series where you could move and commute for a matter of weeks. As the royal YouTuber Neil Sean put it, it was never on. I know, Guy Ritchie, total fabrication that you, speaking to Tina Brown, and the rest of the media decided to run with. But what you are seeing here is the gullible fools in the mainstream media and the royal rota desperately try and cling on to the one relationship they have left, Liam Maguire lying to them about the couple's plans. So the Sun on Sunday desperately trying to say, no, Meghan Markle is still in talks. She is still in talks. And maybe she is.
Both countries.
The Sussexes are expected to retain their Montecito property and their home in Portugal, meaning the British move does not necessarily mean the permanent end of their American chapter. Their representatives have described the plan as an extended period in Britain, while other reports have emphasized that the children will remain connected to California and that the family could continue moving between properties. This makes the arrangement less like a conventional relocation and more like a deliberately international family structure.
Honest and realistic. I really try to go, okay, well, that's logical, because it does make sense actually for Harry and Meghan to relocate to a certain extent, because a lot of productions are moving to London. I actually pulled something up, and I'll pull it up here just to show you the decrease in the number of productions actually filming in Los Angeles. This is like a very real thing. A lot of productions, for a variety of reasons, including tax incentives, the horrific unions in California for different sets and these sorts of things. A lot of productions are moving to London.
And the children may ultimately be the strongest reason for making that arrangement work.
Archie and Lilibet are expected to begin British schooling in September, giving them regular exposure to the country that forms a major part of their father's family history. Their return also creates an opportunity for them to spend more time with King Charles, who recently reunited with the children after several years apart. For Charles, the children's presence could provide a personal connection that is separate from the much more difficult relationship between Harry and his brother Prince William.
Canada or Australia might be the next place. And isn't this just fascinating? Because what it shows you is that you can't run away from your unhappiness. First they went to Canada, they were unhappy. Then they went to Montecito, they were unhappy. Trust me, Harry, you're going to be just as unhappy back here until you actually deal with the problem, which is that you married the wrong woman. You had children, sort of, with the wrong woman. But here is the briefing to the Sunday Times.
That distinction between Charles and William is becoming increasingly important. Harry may be rebuilding one relationship while another remains deeply damaged.
Recent reporting suggests that Harry's relationship with his father have shown signs of improvement following their private meeting, but there is still no comparable breakthrough with William. The brothers have remained estranged despite Harry's return visits to Britain, and the public revelations made during the past several years have left a substantial trust problem behind them.
Or really any family. I don't know how many of the extended family are their ages from the Spencer side, because Harry really only seems to be concerned about connecting with his Spencer side of the family. They do have other cousins who they are close in age with, but because of all the difficulties and stuff, that'll be a very hard situation to break through, and would be beneficial to the kids to have that opportunity to maybe make those relationships. It seems incredibly selfish as parents to go, well, we'll just see what happens. And thinking of an extended period of time is just 6 months. An extended period of time is a couple years.
Harry can therefore become physically closer to the royal family without automatically becoming emotionally or institutionally close to every member of it.
Then there is the issue that Harry has repeatedly identified as fundamental to bringing his family back: security. That question has not disappeared simply because the family has decided to return.
Interesting. A home in Portugal, a house in Montecito. They might suddenly go, why don't we try Canada for a while? Why don't we try Australia? It's one of the great things about being private individuals that they can live where they choose. The Duchess's mother, Doria Ragland, who has supported the family in California and also accused Brits of being racist, remember, plans to travel often to England but is not moving herself. Good.
Harry has spent years challenging the security arrangements available to him when he visits Britain, arguing that the reduced protection makes it difficult to bring Meghan and their children safely into the country. His legal efforts over publicly funded protection have not produced the outcome he wanted, and the question of what security the family will actually receive remains separate from the decision to move.
And they're both going to pursue their own career paths. That's really the only thing that makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean, Brittany, look, I've always said this is going to be a long process. There isn't going to be some quick and short separation because it actually doesn't work for either side. Harry can't bear the idea that his brother would be proven right, that all of us would be proven right. And Meghan Markle knows that her business is far from secured and there is much more work to be done. But the fact that there she is talking to Bloomberg not all that long ago, Brittany, about the safety of the school runs in this safe community that she's built up in Montecito tells you this is not something she wants. She does not want this.
The British authorities have continued to treat protection as a matter of assessed risk rather than an automatic entitlement attached to Harry's royal status.
That means Harry is returning under very different circumstances from the ones he left behind. He is still a prince, but he is not returning as a working royal.
This is just so incredibly obvious. They're trying to find a place that'll love and accept them as they want to be loved and accepted. The problem with Harry and Meghan is Oprah, Netflix, and Spare. It's their own problems. Changing geography does not change the damage of those programs. It doesn't change any of that. That still exists no matter which continent they're on. North America, South America, Australia, Europe, Asia, wherever, Africa. The damage Harry and Meghan caused is self-inflicted. They didn't have to do any of the things they did the last couple of years. That was a deliberate choice on their end. So they can't be there sitting and whining and complaining about it and jumping continents trying to find one that finally likes them. Kind of the loathing is fairly universal.
That status has practical consequences because the family will live in private accommodation rather than a royal residence, and there is no announced restoration of official duties. Harry's position is therefore unusual. He remains close enough to the succession and the royal family to attract intense public attention, but he is operating as a private citizen.
No doubt Harry wants to be nearer his father, but Meghan knows that having their children near the king now future-proofs them. A royal source close to the couple said, if the children know their grandfather, if they're in his orbit, that is so much more than being over here. They're in the US and not knowing the king. But as Brittany, editor of the Royal News Network, points out, this is just absolute chaos at this point. I don't know what the heck Harry, Meghan, and their PR team are thinking, but they're clearly completely unsure about what to do or where to go. This reeks of problems or an attempt to obfuscate what is actually going on, but badly. It is insane.
His return also comes shortly before the next Invictus Games in Birmingham, giving him an additional reason to maintain a visible presence in Britain.
And this is where the wider picture becomes more complicated than the headlines suggest. The return is about family, education, work, and Harry's connection to Britain all at once.
It is also happening at a moment when the Sussexes' relationship with the royal family is no longer frozen in exactly the same place it was a few years ago. King Charles has shown a willingness to meet Harry and spend private time with his grandchildren.
But there's just something about this that reeks. There's something about this that doesn't make sense. And you almost feel like this is Harry saying, I'm going to the UK and you can come with me or not. I don't care anymore. That's almost the sense I get. And I think it's smart to move the kids to the UK if you're really wanting to establish them as being British. I could see Meghan thinking long-term going, yeah, if I can keep those tiles for those kids, that's most important to her. She has good friends in California. There was a reason she moved him to California. I don't think she wants to be in the UK.
While Harry's relationship with William remains unresolved. The result is a delicate middle ground in which physical proximity may create opportunities for reconciliation, but it cannot erase the disagreements that caused the separation in the first place.
So the return should not automatically be interpreted as a reconciliation. It is better understood as an experiment in rebuilding a life that connects both sides of the Atlantic.
And again, this weekend, it's been all over the place with all the briefings. And as a reminder, actually, there was an incident, I think, when Harry came in July, and they were asking something about Meghan to Harry's PR team. And they go, we don't know. You're going to have to ask her PR team. And it's like, well, they were supposed to do this event together. Why do they have these two separate PR teams that are not actually in coordination with each other?
Harry and Meghan can keep their American home, maintain their international work, educate their children in Britain, and spend more time with members of Harry's family without formally returning to royal service. Whether that arrangement succeeds will depend on practical issues such as security and schooling, but also on whether the family relationships can withstand the pressure created by their renewed presence in Britain. For now, the move has opened the door to greater contact, while leaving many of the old disputes firmly unresolved.
And I think she is definitely trying to figure out how to make money and is not going particularly well. And if they keep the Montecito house, that's an easy way for her to go back to the Montecito house. And you could think too, and again, I'm not advocating for divorce. I never am. But I'm just saying, and I've always said this was probably going to be the natural outcome of their relationship, given the differences and given how much Harry in particular had to change to make their relationship work. Those type of relationships, if you have to change everything about yourself to make your relationship work, it's not a healthy relationship. If you make the decision to quit smoking because your partner doesn't like it and you're realizing it's unhealthy and you really want to quit smoking and you quit smoking, that's different. But if your spouse tells you that your family is evil and you can never speak to them again without a really good reason, and those reasons are very rare, like those are extreme cases, it's not a good relationship. And I don't think Harry and Meghan's relationship was ever on very good or firm footing. And as the years drag on, and as the tensions and the challenges escalate, there was always going to be a breaking point, and I think we might have reached the breaking point. And I would argue maybe the breaking point happened as far back as late 2025, early 2026, because Netflix breaking with Harry and Meghan, and none of Meghan's stuff doing well, and particularly as ever failing.
The biggest question now is whether this return can actually work. Harry and Meghan are bringing their children into a country where family relationships remain complicated, while also trying to maintain the independent life they built in America.
The move is officially described as an extended stay rather than a permanent relocation. And that distinction matters because the Sussexes intend to keep their Montecito home. Archie and Lilibet are nevertheless enrolled in British schools for the September term, which means the family is making a substantial commitment to life in Britain, even if they have not committed to remaining there permanently.
And so I think here Meghan is just not going to want to do this. She did this once, hated it, and it's going to be just this instance where they're going to maybe try to give it 6 months and see what happens. And then after that, we may see a divorce. They may try to drag it out another year or so. But the only thing really that makes sense in all of this is that they're separated or in the process of separating and preparing for a divorce, and they're just trying to secure their kids' future. And
their private residence outside London will also keep them separate from royal estates, reinforcing the fact that this is not a return to working royal life.
Harry's relationship with his father could also become much more important. King Charles has reportedly welcomed the chance to spend more private time with his grandchildren.
That possibility became more realistic after the family's recent visit to Highgrove, where Charles saw Archie and Lilibet in person after a prolonged period apart. Harry has also spoken about wanting to repair his relationship with his father, and the move puts them close enough for regular private contact, rather than occasional meetings during short visits. But that improvement should not be confused with a full family reconciliation, because the relationship between Harry and Prince William remains deeply strained.
Essex, because she happens to have a role in a Netflix drama which isn't filming in the United Kingdom. It's nonsense. And she's embarrassed herself because what she's also proven is that Netflix don't necessarily view her as someone who is going to add to a show. And it's really interesting to me, Brittany, that it's actually Guy Ritchie who was thinking, oh, this is good PR. Netflix, which actually has the data, because remember, Netflix is driven by data, is a bit like, oh, God, hang on a moment. We've actually got a drama hit on our hands with The Gentleman. We don't necessarily want to risk the success of it, Brittany, by bringing Meghan in.
William is therefore a completely different part of this equation. Harry can move closer to his father without automatically repairing the relationship with his brother.
Years of public accusations, interviews, and revelations have created a level of mistrust that cannot disappear simply because Harry has returned to Britain. William and Catherine have largely avoided public reactions to the move, and there is no indication that Harry and William have suddenly resumed the close relationship. The physical distance between the brothers may soon disappear, but the emotional distance could remain considerable.
But I'm wondering if the discussion was actually, in some ways, officially telling Charles that they were planning on separating. And that might give Charles the incentive to be a bit more soft on Harry because Harry is planning on returning. I don't think Harry wants to live somewhere else. He wants to live in the UK and he wants his children to live in the UK. And I think he's finally put his foot down. But I think Meghan is equally as stubborn and going, no, I want to stay in Hollywood. I want to hang out with my mega rich friends. Even if Harry's not there, it's more important, I think, for her to have the uber success and all the money than it is to live in dreary UK with her family. And that's why it could be said that Charles was, I'm sure they had to have talked about something. And maybe it was quietly alluded to. And maybe they didn't talk again about the relocation, but they definitely talked about the separation. Again, just my very humble opinion. It would be much easier for him to reintegrate back into the UK and back to the working fold if he was officially divorced. Because then it could be said that, well...
Then there is the question of why Harry himself appears increasingly interested in Britain again. The answer may be more personal than professional.
Harry has repeatedly described Britain as home, and his connection to British charities and the Invictus Games gives him an established reason to spend more time there. He is also expected to remain involved with preparations surrounding the 2027 Invictus Games in Birmingham, while continuing his charitable work across the Atlantic.
And you can say, yes, some people went because they love her, some people avoided whatever it is because they loathe her. Either way, she is not somebody who converts in a positive way. And given that Hollywood is sort of declining in a lot of various aspects, you need somebody strong and who can convert in a very positive way. And Meghan is not that person. She's not that actress. So even if these talks were like tenuous and sort of frivolous, that she went ahead with this as if leveraging it to a bigger role, it's just shows you where her head is at. She is desperate for something, anything to sort of reinvigorate her Hollywood role. And of course, it blew up in her face and she looks utterly humiliated.
Yeah, I mean, it's the oldest rule in the Hollywood book.
That means the move gives Harry something he has struggled to maintain from California: regular access to the country, institutions, and causes that have shaped much of his adult public identity.
And Meghan's situation is different because she has built a business and public identity around California. Her company, as ever, is expected to continue operating even while the family is based in Britain.
That makes the Sussex's arrangement unusually flexible. Meghan can continue running her lifestyle business from Britain, while Harry maintains his charitable commitments and the couple retain their American property. Their decision does not therefore require them to abandon the commercial infrastructure they created in California. Instead, they appear to be attempting to establish a transatlantic existence in which Britain becomes a second base, rather than replacing America altogether.
Even the family's animals tell us something about the nature of the move. The dogs are expected to travel with them, while their chickens will remain at the Montecito property.
And get whatever Harry and Meghan want. And you might say, well, Harry and Meghan looked all loved up in Canada. Yeah, because that's what they do. She's acting. He's acting to a certain extent. That's what Hollywood people do quite a bit. That's why sometimes it's really big stunner when people split, because it's like, well, they looked lovey-dovey like 5 seconds ago. Yeah, that's what Hollywood people do. They hide it until they can't anymore. They hide it until they have split the assets. This is actually one of the big indicators of a future divorce between a Hollywood couple is if they sell a house. This move, I think you could say, is an indication, one of the early indications that divorce is in the offing. And this, again, we won't know for a while. They'll probably try to hide it. Meghan knows her brand is better with Harry than without him. And she desperately needs something. This might be why the desperation and why the return to acting is she desperately needs and wants money, and she's not getting it. And she's really trying to maneuver herself because she knows that even though if Harry goes back on the bankroll with Charles, he'll only get probably about £2 million a year, maybe.
The chickens have become a recognizable part of Meghan's California lifestyle, having appeared in public material connected with her life there. Their continued care at the Montecito home is another small indication that the American chapter is not being closed. The Sussexes are effectively leaving one household operating in California while establishing another family base in Britain, which fits with the description of an extended stay rather than a complete permanent relocation.
But as the royal reporter Phil Dampier put it, the British public will be outraged if they have to pay for Harry and Meghan's security. Let's see what happens. They can't keep this a secret. And then you actually get to the statistics, and the statistics, Brittany, are utterly shocking. Just 2%. 2% of Brits think Harry should get taxpayer-funded security. Now, this is actually a poll that was taken by the Mail on Sunday newspaper. And the figures are absolutely stark. I mean, look at that 2%, Brittany. So all of a sudden, despite the fact that you've got politicians like the former Home Secretary, Lord Blunkett, going on the record and saying, oh no, they should get security, or the head of the Foreign Affairs Committee, a Labour.
But the security question could still determine how comfortable this new arrangement becomes. Harry has spent years arguing that his family needs greater protection when they are in Britain.
His legal battle over taxpayer-funded security ended unsuccessfully, and the issue remains sensitive because Harry is no longer a working royal. Current arrangements are expected to depend on security assessments rather than his title alone, and the British government has emphasized that the matter is being handled privately. The fact that Harry is now voluntarily bringing his wife and children back, despite those long-standing concerns, suggests that the family believes it can manage the security situation under the arrangements available to them.
That decision also changes the meaning of Harry's earlier arguments about Britain. For years, security was presented as one of the central obstacles to bringing his family back.
Now, the family is returning anyway, which naturally invites questions about what has changed. The answer may be a combination of factors rather than one single reason.
And if As Ever is doing so well, why does she need an acting role? Why is that the reason that they're going to the UK? There are obviously so many problems going on behind the scenes, and the Hollywood failure is very, very real. You just have to look at the Cookie Queens numbers, the With Love Meghan numbers, to just see that it is a complete and utter lie and farce that Meghan actually helps your production. She does not. She's a drain on it. Pretty much every single time she becomes a story, derails any potential that the project has.
The children's education, Harry's desire to reconnect with Britain, his relationship with his father, professional opportunities, and the practical realities of maintaining a life in two countries. None of those explanations requires a dramatic reversal of everything the Sussexes have said or done since leaving royal duties.
And that is why the most accurate way to view the move is not as Harry and Meghan becoming working royals again. They're not.
They are returning as private citizens with royal titles, private businesses, and an unusually complicated family history. Their children will now grow up with meaningful exposure to both American and British culture, while Harry gets greater access to his father and his British charitable work. At the same time, the unresolved relationship with William, the security dispute, and the constant media attention remain part of the environment they are choosing to re-enter.
A Labour leftist, Emily Thornberry, going on the record saying they should get security. Very easy for them to say, Brittany, they're not in government. They're not fighting to stay in government. And I believe that even though Andy Burnham's British government is very much to the left, it's actually untenable, Brittany, for any Prime Minister to go forward with a decision which is going to be incredibly high profile, on the front page of every newspaper, leading every news bulletin, while 98% of your constituency, the British public, disagree.
It's going to be super hard, Dan. And this is going to be, if they decide to go in this direction, it's going to be an unbelievably hard sell. People will lose their roles in governments probably over this to a certain extent, or definitely lose a lot of favor. Harry and Meghan are not popular figures. And the big thing is,
The return therefore represents a major change, but not necessarily the end of the Sussexes' American life. It is a different attempt to balance two worlds.
For Harry, Britain offers family, history, and a renewed connection with causes close to him. For Meghan, it presents a new environment for her business and potentially future professional opportunities, while California remains available as a private base. Whether this arrangement becomes a lasting solution or simply another chapter in the Sussexes' constantly changing life remains uncertain, but the decision itself has already altered the distance between the couple and the royal family in a way that has not happened since they left Britain 6 years ago.
The return to Britain now looks less like a simple change of address and more like a test of whether Harry and Meghan can make two very different worlds work at the same time. They have the opportunity to rebuild family connections, but they also have to deal with the unresolved issues that followed them out of Britain.
The most important relationship may be the one between Harry and King Charles, because the recent meeting with Archie and Lilibet demonstrated that contact is possible when the circumstances are kept private.
he represents his father and the rest of the royal family and the British government anywhere he's at. And you could say, too, maybe this move is a cynical ploy just to get the security. And if that's the case, too, it also doesn't benefit the government to do this. So we will have to see what the risk assessment says. I mean, of course, when Harry does a public event, it does benefit to have some police presence there just to avoid a catastrophe. But I think Harry and Meghan can live their private lives and they don't really need the level of security that they think that they do. I'm actually sort of curious to see what the risk assessment says, because it would almost be nice for it to say, yeah, you guys don't have any risk. And
for Charles, having his grandchildren nearby could allow a relationship to develop that has been difficult to maintain across the Atlantic. But the distance between Harry and William remains a separate problem, and nothing about the move automatically resolves that fracture.
Meghan faces her own challenge. She has spent years presenting California as the place where her family created a comfortable and independent life.
In earlier public comments, Meghan described Montecito as a community where the family had built a supported and peaceful daily routine, including taking the children to school and creating a life that felt like their own.
You do not announce a deal like that until there is ink on paper, because it can all go wrong. And I think she knew that the deal was slipping away. And so she needed to try and bring it back. Now, Brittany, you've also got the security aspect as well. And I think that's where the British government is going to learn that getting into bed with Meghan and Harry is a huge mistake. Victoria Ward reporting that Prince Harry's long-awaited risk assessment has finally taken place, but he is still waiting for answers about his police protection just days before he and his family return to Britain. So unfortunately, Brittany, the path has already been opened up here by the British government. But
that makes the decision to spend an extended period in Britain particularly significant, although it does not prove that she is unhappy with the move or that the marriage is breaking down. Claims that Harry and Meghan are already separated or preparing for divorce remain speculation, rather than established fact.
The same caution applies to Meghan's acting career. The reports surrounding The Gentleman became complicated very quickly.
Meghan was linked to discussions about a possible role in Guy Ritchie's series, but the material available does not establish that she had a finalized contract. Reports differed over whether the discussions were continuing or whether the proposed casting had been abandoned, so treating the role as either confirmed or completely impossible would go beyond what has been established.
And he might be doing the same thing too. They might be here trying desperately to figure out, maybe they're trying to make it work. Maybe this is a last-ditch effort to try to make it work. Maybe that's why the 6 months. Give it 6 months. Harry wants her to give it 6 months. If they can't make it work, they're done. And then they do become an international couple, but a separated one. She lives in California. He lives in London. The children are shuffled between them. Probably why Doria isn't relocating either. Because they know it's not all going to come together. And despite the loved up pictures on Instagram and stuff like that, they'll lie till they're blue in the face until they can't anymore, until everything is settled, and then they'll let you know the truth. But given all the insane chaos, the unprofessional nature of the PR, there is just no real way that something deeper is not going on. And really the only true thing that makes sense is that they're separating and in the process of figuring out if they're going to divorce. And moving to the UK, reuniting with aspects of Harry's family, fulfills his wish and gives them one last shot to see if they can make it work.
What the episode does demonstrate is how quickly speculation about Meghan's professional future can become part of the larger conversation surrounding the Sussexes.
And Harry's security dispute remains another unresolved piece of the story. His return means the question will continue to receive attention.
Harry has argued for years that his family requires adequate protection when visiting Britain, while the authorities have maintained that security decisions must be determined through risk assessment, rather than simply through royal status. The family is now choosing to spend considerably more time in Britain despite that unresolved history.
Harry is not a working royal anymore. He's just a private guy who doesn't really want to make any money and just wants to be a royal again without actually being a royal again. And so this is just a mess. And if he gets this taxpayer-funded security, it legitimizes Harry to certain groups, which is what Harry does. Right now, Harry's like on this precipice of where people think he's kind of with the British royal family, yet not think he's with the British royal family. And he can definitely play that to his benefit, especially to some international and or ignorant audiences that can work. And he can seem like he's representing the British government. If you give him taxpayer funded security on top of that, then it really, really does look like.
That does not prove that Harry has abandoned his position, but it does show that the security issue is no longer preventing the family from returning.
The children's future may ultimately be the most practical consideration of all. Their education gives this move a significance that a normal visit would not have.
Archie and Lilibet are being introduced to a country that is central to their father's identity and their family's history. They will have greater opportunities to know their grandfather, experience British life, and develop connections with relatives they have seen only intermittently. At the same time, their California home remains part of the family's plans, so the children are effectively being given access to both sides of their background, rather than being completely removed from one.
That leaves us with a situation that is far more complicated than the simple claims of a permanent move or an imminent separation. There are too many confirmed pieces and too many unanswered questions to reduce everything to one explanation.
There are too many confirmed pieces and too many unanswered questions to reduce everything to one explanation. Harry and Meghan are spending an extended period in Britain. Their children are entering British schools. Harry is becoming more closely connected to his father and his British commitments, and Meghan's professional future remains under discussion. The evidence supports those developments, but it does not establish that the couple are secretly separated, that divorce is inevitable, or that Meghan has been forced to return against her wishes. Those are interpretations, and they should be treated as such.
And put it to bed and let Harry live in his delusion somewhere else, but show him again and again, hey, you don't really need this. You are okay. Broadly, there will be a couple of times when we can help you out, but that's basically it. That's how it should be done, because definitely it will not be a popular decision. It'll make the monarchy look bad. It'll make the government look bad. Nobody comes out of this looking good. Even Harry and Meghan, he'll be even more loathed if he goes through with this and gets his taxpayer-funded security back.
What happens next will therefore depend on what the family actually does, rather than what people predict about them. The coming period will reveal whether Britain becomes a genuine second home or simply another temporary chapter.
For Harry, returning offers something he has repeatedly struggled to replace: proximity to his family, his homeland, and the causes that remain important to him. For Meghan, it means navigating a country where her relationship with the royal family and the British public has been intensely scrutinized, while continuing to develop her own professional identity. And for Archie and Lilibet, it could become the first sustained period in which their British heritage is not simply part of their story, but part of their everyday lives.
Whatever the final outcome, one thing has already changed. Harry is no longer keeping Britain at a distance.
The Sussexes have chosen to bring their children closer to the royal family, while maintaining the independence they established after leaving royal duties. That decision creates possibilities for reconciliation, but it also brings old disagreements back into the same physical space. Whether this becomes a lasting bridge between two parts of Harry's life or another temporary arrangement will ultimately be determined by their actions, their family relationships, and the reality of living between two countries.